Namo Gurube. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharma-activity. Namo Tsongkhapa. Namo Gurube. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharma-activity. Namo Tsongkhapa. Namo Gurube. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharma-activity. Namo Tsongkhapa. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So, where we left off last week was verse 9, and we hope you had the opportunity to read the commentary on verse 9 individually. Verse 9 is on page 49. And what we'll do is read the root verse together, and then we'll go ahead and take any questions, or start taking any questions you may have, or comments you may have. Feel free to share anything you'd like. So just to kind of give us all a quick recap of the previous verse and its commentary. If you turn to page 47 and throughout page 48, you'll remember that verse 8 emphasized the generation of bodhicitta, and the both what are called the ripening activities of oneself, in terms of the six perfections of the in regards to the practice of bodhisattvas, and then also the four techniques of cultivating students or cultivating followers, and this is known as the ripening of others, or for others. What also came up in terms of emphasis was also the 3 types of vows. And within the 3 types of vows, we had different, we went through the different types of 3 that there are. And if you look at the bottom of 48, you'll see that morality, or Tsultim in Tibetan, was the term and the section of the root text which was emphasized for most of the commentaries. So that's kind of a recap of last week's topic. And then now, if you turn to verse 9, we'll go ahead and read that together. Please read along with us. That which prevents distraction towards distorted objects and enables analytic penetration into the perfect meaning, bless me to quickly produce in my mind stream the integrated path of shamatha and vipassana. So again, hopefully everyone had the opportunity to read the couple pages of commentary on verse 9. And if you have any questions on any of the previous verses as well, and this goes back to verse 1, please feel free to raise a topic for conversation and discussion, and to bring forward any questions as well. And for those of you online, please feel free to drop your questions and comments in the main chat box there. Yes.
So I guess this would be in terms of refraining from non-virtue. It's part of the 10 non-virtuous actions. One of them is holding wrong views, and it's known that this is the most harmful. So why is holding wrong views the most harmful?
Loda di jik dushirodi, zabshishirodi, sigdurs. Andi junze harinas. Shivre.
Loda di dushi chagaya didere. Loda chungba ina ngazu lendi tang, lendi le, tad loda zo tanda loda se ati lendi le, lendi yomare se kuwandi she ati loda terwa. Tawada tanchi chenpa yomare, sanji yomare, lendi yomare laya terwa. Chazada lendi yomare se ati loda chungba ina tene, gyawa she agi ngazu gimi gigi nangsha zana te tu mara. Ngazu chue che agi mangshi rawu di ngu kani tsugu warsi di zana lendi kilengi yuwa inza ane jo gyawa sawa ina ribu dewan jungu yuwa to ane jo me gyawa sasha na ribu dongan jungu yuwa di lendi ki nasha tin rugu kura ta loda chungsha ba ina digi nasha chuen mer ta ane leha kari che ba ina ane kuka songso ro cha rugu da duwa kazi che ba ina kuka songso ro cha che ane kuki chue suya di ngu ji lang yang taba ji na nam ane ji nongwa suya ji kuro nasha kuro me wa cha yang wara che da da di chue che yagi mangshin rawu di tenne la nuwa ra. Loda chungna dukshu resi wara nga tsa chue che nge jila cha sha bayi na chi mi dra katse chungba ina ya dhansi chi nga tsu lakang tor sha ba cha sha bayi na ya rang ju li ya lendi li che tenbu che nge chi ina ku kawa ina chue che yagi di mangshi di yores. Nangi ane nga tsu loda se ya di chi che tsa bayi na ane lakang zibu kaze mo kaze jan churang di nang lo sha sha bayi na sanji ko trilo che sha chen de trilo sha sha ba ne ko chue gi mangshin ro ji chen ding tu ma ro de chen de zan lo ta do shu cha we de jong san de teres ro nas.
So when we talk about distorted view, it's within the context of the 10 non-virtues, it's typically in reference to the view of not accepting or refuting cause and result, karma. And if you can imagine that if we don't believe in karma, then what's to hold us back from accumulating negativities without that concept? Obviously, distorted views itself is a very, the scope of distorted views is very broad. However, when we take into context, when we take into the conversation the 10 non-virtuous actions and how that applies to practice, our Dharma practice, that serves as kind of the foundation for any pursuit of virtue and of the Dharma. Built on that foundation of the belief and understanding that good causes bring good results, or positive causes bring positive results, and then negative causes bring negative results. Hence, our willingness to refrain from negativity and accumulate positive ones, or positive deeds. And that dictates, that view, if you will, dictates our actions. If that remains distorted, it doesn't matter if we physically put ourselves in a temple or a place of worship or in front of all the representations of the three jewels. But if you don't have that concept, then we don't have that motivation to pursue and pursue positive deeds and then refrain from negative ones. And so that concept of karma. So when we say distorted view, a lot of the time we're referring to the refutation or the non-acceptance of the concept of cause and result or karma. So yes.
I believe it's also mentioned in the medium scope of the lam-rim that there's like 6 causes of being in samsara, and one of them is wrong view as well.
Yes.
So how does that differ from the 10 non-virtuous wrong view? Is it referring to something different, or is it just a more broader term?
lam-rim dungun nana ni den just sumshasra.
Yes.
Koan nana chi mut machawajin korde gi bagi ju sumshas.
Yes.
Ju chi ju nana chi ani loda.
Yes.
lam-rim dungu dikam de sumatida ani mege ju nana 먼저 로다 제셔 봐. 군인의 개와 여러베스.
this is about it. 대 로다 다 아주기 뭐도기 준 수팅 레시면서 하죠. 뭐도 준 수팅 레시면서 뭐도 토야기 조들에 연하면 아주 뜻도 고고라. 미기 주봉 수팅도 고고랬어요라. 미기 주봉 수팅이 야보 좀 대강라는 전소 파진 주기 조체 전소 파진 주라서 거기 조체 되네 멜랑트마에 마찬가지로 와이나 아니 가르스보다 딘도치도 그랬어요라. 다디 마종아 첸데네 저 메기 주봉 수팅도 마송아체다 단 하버도 되네 나는 이제 도시체다 라단 단도 로단도 좀 바이나 아니 예송로야기 조디 대찬으로 와는데 바기 로다스 나는 수치던 메기 주봉 수팅 나는 로다스 가르스 메기 주봉 수팅 가지고 다 메기 주에 나는 로다스 되지 지바라.
Yes, so they're referring to the same distorted view there, in terms of that being the cause of our pain and suffering and continuation in samsara.
로다 빵와셔라. 로다 빵이 당아서 수팅셔라. 뭐기 주봉 수팅셔라. 수팅디 아주 뭐도 도야. 딘루송여라. 딘루송지야기 주연면 돼서. 다티 뭐기 주봉 수팅디 야오마 송치한테네 미기 와줘들은 조도와이나 아니 진짜 송치야. 좀 미기 와줘기 나니 장도 슈도부터 가르쳐야 되고 로다티 자녀를 대촌 그냥 송도야.
I forgot a reference that Kishama was sharing, and that is that practice of the accumulation of, or the practice of avoiding the 10 non-virtues or abandoning the 10 non-virtues serves as the basis of our achieving a fortunate rebirth in the next life. And so, with that in mind, it starts with this. But when it comes to practice, when it comes to guiding ourselves, it's through the practice of the 10, abandoning the 10 non-virtues, and then incorporating the 6 perfections, and taking our practice forward from there. But if you keep in mind the abandonment of the 10 non-virtues and how this practice serves as a basis for accumulating a fortunate or achieving a fortunate rebirth, you can also understand that within that, yes, as you mentioned before, and then as mentioned in the text, that distorted view is one of the causes to continue to toil in samsara and then bring about unfortunate rebirths.
I remember reading in a sutra, I believe, that if a monk thinks, the sutra was referring to someone ordained, I believe, if one thinks of future lives and, the benefits they'll gain from their practice, and they delight in that, that's a hindrance to, the practice. That's a hindrance. So is it true? How is that a hindrance?
If they think about
all the benefits they'll receive in future life. Yeah, if they think about all the benefits they'll receive in a future life, and they're really delighting in that, and that's really like a sense of like, it's something they can think of when sort of, I guess, they're going through the hardships of restraints, that this is a hindrance, by delighting in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how is that a hindrance to practice?
Yeah.
Delighting in finding incentive in the benefits of future lives.
Yeah.
For themselves, so it reinforces self-cherishing.
No,
Vladimir?
I think
Thank
it's like, Vladimir said, is it because of the self-cherishing? I believe it was because, well, that's the question, right? How is it a hindrance?
Right. Tani tichuwar ani ta khasor ta chik tsurim soya tagana shi ta chunyam nyamsule kabliya ani kangin shigwar was kale yor was ani mi chik samshu amma chaya do rani ranya troa ke chido ani pejina chik sungsha sigwar de khandi dikade di ale khandi train khanje ani mombala ani jobu sangar yunguris right? So the yawache watil sangwa che watil tene divu sangwa yunguris tadi ani kanji di diletene khasur samji ke ashura to ke ashura ta ani ror tangai mongbale shik tene yungu san da mai mutuni odo shine digdu tanga che wada go chosha san shik yong ashur ba chen ashur ba ta ani tenje gi mongbe divu sangwa lamine dus pagi khasur gawa gomyadi ani di ani chugin nyamlen liya ani niki goris parjichi goris ne dus sungshas di jodan khande inas
kanisa maumba na
ta mombala ta ani pejada tangai kali du shus dus ra
alas
ta chud pe mas kali du da ine ta kyawachi mad yawa yongri sigor mondo togri sigor chichi togri nini togri sigoris pe shiu tebu sangu shus togi sungshas tanga dil ngamne da roda
nas
어떻게 직샤다 아니 간지 고치셔 아니 거기 딜레테네 좋아기 그러다 심지기 그러
nas
아니 저부 야보면 뭐야 미 심지기 가버 봐 다시 저부 상월 주셔서 아니 딜레 간지 딜레테네 거기 쩌나 아니 가나 지금 든지 토기 위해서 아니 딜레테네 지금 심지기 하셔다 거기 가오쳐야 하셔다 좋아기 하셔 아니 디 아니 든지 지금 몸배 미기 몸배 중절을 봐 남밍네 아니 지 어연 냠린 체베이나 아니 냠린 뉴그리 파지르스니 숭샤스 디조단 한데레스
테코 바실라 마음비 미 제부디 가르레나 배낭아서 두스여 츤들 샤나 추바메 세저바 배낭 알아서 대보 첨부 추징이 진이바이나 라호라 대보 첨부 추징이 진이바이나 아니 가서 되고 거 당가서 주부들 주부 지나 그런데 다송 송고여라 제가 대인도 전에 당가서 천들이야 시험 받치네 아니 엔다지 나랑 지부 용거래 아니 근데 미유송 전에 가서 대체바이나 아니 대 용거래 송라 다다데네 아린 친구나로요 대형 토마 천들라시나 안 타바시 좀 관계하나지 개인 베이스 대신들산에 천들라시아만 있는 나와다 천들이 도자지 생기는 거라다 지구 용어래 조번주 용어래 당년라 용어래 노노주 용어래 라이저라 천들이 당한 수도 된리질 미유송 전에 안에 최적인 라바이나 안에 저런 중원이 제야 될 바시 용어를 나왔다 중원이 가르라다 최 너네 제발라 야면은 타바 토야 야면은 단주치 못 토야 된리지겠다 타바다 단주치 못 토야기 내친로야 저러봐 데텔파지 제일 나와라 거기 단다 마음바나 아니 미 가선 리버든 리치 미그레 삼체는 거기 딜레스 송세야 리버드 가르래 선디기 리버드 이마이나 아니 타바 단주치 못 토야기 줄 바체로레스 데 콜파치 트리션
단다 블라드메기 디키마 칼라스나 아니 거기 딘디 라테네 저기가 아니티 아니 거기 벌써 누구를 세기지디 아니 하나 두고를 나는 가졌다 맞아 그러다 소소는 미네 그러다 그래서 란친징이 절 봐주고 왔어 어디 손상했어 내가 먼저 그래 빼잖아 어디 간다 쉬어야
this you 그러다 배나 리부 상고질에 미라해 줘라 리부 상고도 이와 치야다 츤들을 시험이나 안에 다바치 좀 강경한 지케레스 안에 츤들로도 그래서요라 지대로
콩래디야 개워치물라 개워치 마음벌라 계시고
다 조치마라이나 도스래 근데 조치마들에 다가나 송여라 조치마랑이 지 남의 리부를 상당샤마이나 양 곱하기 대체와다 다바 단주치마 도와라 개체 그랬어 간산 대한 토마 츤들러시나 다바시 좀 강경한 나지 게임에 츤들인도 많이 미치와트는 거고도 그렇지 시위 워도양에로 참비 추산 츤들러 론도버 자와 지대로와 대워도라니 대워도 안에 그래 조아치망에 송송기 동에서 삼체는 아니 조아치말이야 남의 딜레미 유송해요 말레스 조아치말은 앞에 친 민양에 지나를 지그레 지지지 라이저로 와한테 리미마송 더 도도로체나 타바도 탄주치마다 민고 그랬어요. 리브도 이와체고 그런 리브 세야데 가르레샤 데타야다 그런
can you remind us what results what positive desirable results were specified in terms of in terms of what the practice like this the result in my next life something good will happen. That's why this is inspiring me to keep going.
Just simple restraining from non-virtue practice.
Not the practice, but I mean that incentive to keep going. You said it was because of the thought of something experiencing something positive in the future because of it.
Yeah.
Was there anything specified in terms of what that result was? Was it was it a higher state? Was it happy? Was there anything specified specifically? And we're asking this because if this result or the thought of something beneficial is focused on this life, or something good will happen to me now in this life, then in that case that becomes an obstacle to
no, it was on future lives.
Yep, right. So I need to mombe ni se the say the mombe ni the kiawachimala kiawachimala ni ya yung research shero ba to some to research shero
디엔디 고 말다 다다나가 인들라샤는 콜레토스 그런 하린 참나로도 송샤주치 인디비주얼 바 틱폰일 반드시 자산 안 코세오 차로로 그냥 토만 쓴들라 라 로만도나 타바치 좀 강기 안 한지 개인 비 쓴들인도 많이 미치와탄 거 시위워도 아니로 참비 수산 쓴들라도 지들 미유 쓴득이 마송라 림바치는 시오라 아니 저런 쓴들을 양아로 지부 용어를 되고 용어를 단위라 용어를 세텐데 지체는 송지어 말해스 아니 대송바이나 타바치 좀 taba chenpo lam toya gan taba chungwe lam toya yendu ge dang la dus sama lam toya la bado che gres jesa ani tsundela ya rindo mani bi chiwa tamba dang shiwi wo dang ro chang gres sam chen ni ti lo den do go res nang chen mon sum dang terwa ba chen ro dang ro chi terwa dom pe chi song chana.
So I'm going to refer back to what we were mentioning before. If so, in terms of achieving liberation and enlightenment, if you're motivated by this life, or achieving something, or experiencing something that is within the realm of this life only, then that becomes an obstacle to achieving something higher, right? Ultimately, liberation or enlightenment. So that's the first part. And Geshe was referring to a specific mention in the lam-rim.
lam-rim maring chemura.
Sorry.
Maring chemare. Ringa sadrin.
The illumination of the 5 stages of completion by Lama Tsongkhapa. So this is a tantric text, but also applicable to what we're discussing now. Yes. And then the next part is that if, I'm not striving to experience something just for this life or within this life, I'm practicing and I'm striving so that I achieve a good rebirth in the next life. And even that isn't enough. What we should strive for is the higher states of liberation and enlightenment. And so kind of if you look at kind of that scope of what it is that one is
so the idea is like by practicing towards that liberation,
right.
You might not get there,
right.
But everything
I
that you're doing.
That's the key word. I believe that's the key word, liberation, as opposed to, let's say,
no, well, let me finish.
Let's say like becoming a billionaire in my next life. Just to give you an example.
I'm saying like you might
right?
not get there, but the practices that you're doing that lead you there
right.
will also result in rebirth in the higher realms. Isn't it true? And
right.
so,
right.
That's I just wanted to say that was part of my quote. That was.
Di dribble ya ngondo thong ngor was. To ngondo la odi diksha dile ya gawa ko ne yus the to ge yor wa. Di ani tanda phese cheza di pharji drugure se shar phese nge tanda nganzo di khar. Di khar di shi si khar chunju sam khaji ji. Khar di shi si khaji chunju mo pharji se shar. Khar di chose jongye ro shi mende khar chodi.
장유 있으니 제발
받아 지 그 뒤로 상에 주 뒤에 같이 챙겨 가라. 가르 가다 드려.
뭐라? 코르주얼에 주주. 코르주얼에 주주.
코르주얼
왜 루르자스 쇼인데 코르주얼에 장신 코르주얼에 주세 셈배.
저 맨 간지 그 초즈 간지 그 갈다 간지 그 라오셔 봐. 단은 너르기 세셔 봐. 콜 파스 속에 버서 쓰듯이. 아니 라오데 코치 따다 진도 마찬가지로 쓰다.
마르티 두스테.
단이 근데 저거에 쳐서 단이 이 셴. bro. Shen mine bro, she mine. Just run da an ngale ya bu ngur ngane chi so chis ti nganzin da ran chenzi chol pa drugi za. Odires pagi dires pa khasur. Paji jodan dires.
ala ko nyale chiala pa chen ro
lo. Nyale chiala pagi paji jodan khashida pena 어디 연구소로 때 깨워치면 거든 나와나시 치치말라니 아니 그냥 먼저 도그리스라나 뜻들이야
디미유스나요 만
तदी मिगिर रमसन त ओ तदी दी अबदवा तदी छुता छजानी गए दी काली जन क्या काली जो छ छ त दी थोय छ दी संशरो
딘디고
ओ दिन रोइना
딘디고 말아 디 바체 차로 제가 먼저 고야데 카르고 거스 데산에 미유디 파기 란마베 조장을 미고래 라와라 바체 차그르다도 추니 제세 상마가 바체 차그르다
was it just finding joy or was it were you saying that this became the motivation to strive or to practice? If it became the actual motivation, then you see how limited it is as in comparison to what we were mentioning in terms of liberation and enlightenment.
My interpretation of it was that, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's like, you know, a layperson thinks like, oh, in the future I'm going to get married and have kids and live this beautiful life. It's like on the same level of that. You're thinking of that in the future, you're delighting in it. So on the level of that, I
yes. So is that your motivation, or is it just a mere finding joy in that? There might be a difference. I don't know. I mean, if that becomes your if that becomes a sheer motivation for you to practice or for you to strive, then it's limited, as opposed to, you know, one thought in comparison to liberation and enlightenment. I would like to go back. I'm trying to remember how you presented the question first, because
it's within the context of you practicing. There's a monk practicing for liberation, and you're simply recognizing the fact that if you don't attain it, you will have a higher rebirth, you know, with all these pleasures. Right. And so it's within that context. Is it that complicated? Sorry.
So well, I mean, if you look at what we just shared with you,
yes,
you can kind of see that these pleasures, or these lesser, let's call them lesser, results. We're not talking about the ultimate results of liberation and enlightenment. These lesser, you kind of like on the side, positive results that you just happen to get, or you just happen to experience, or just happen to achieve as part of the process, right? Because of their scope of being less, if you start to see them as your main motivation.
Okay,
right?
let's phrase it let's phrase the question then.
Yeah.
Without it being your motivation, then how about that? Without it being your motivation.
So just, I guess, finding sheer joy.
Just recognizing the fact
I
that
think recognizing the fact
there will be, and then you're delighting in it. In the same way that you would delight.
The joy the miya di tabatam kamla migore. Those dinyamdali chikta phagi chu phagi nyamne thora chen kali jab oya phagi ju sawa sa chine ta ani dile dine jubu ta mondo ta 근데 jubu chung ala washa shita rada 저거 먼저 타도 많이 버쳐다 수도 더해 저러다 rada ta ani chik
딜은 너가 생기는 거 같이 내려다
된조 로 이제 더 라서 봤다 그 통은 거 봤어 네 된조 터블 때는 좋아셔라 아 득디셔 당가 딜 때는 더 가셔라 딜라이트 라서 그래서 좋아게 이렇게 싫어
다 딜은 너가 생기는 데에 줘봐 어디 체죠 말았어 디 제샤와는 내 코파로 말봐 배차샤는 코란데 인들 로가 차샤 다 뉴욕 로가 샤샤 다 구미 다도 뉴욕 그러다 다고든 봐 신시라 뉴욕을 말랭한 티버로든 사제 지우들 레이로 지우든 레드잖아 지우들 다 다가론 리스티 지우 쇼르시다 티 리스란 데데바이나 한국 뉴욕 레알라 너바 지고
소인도 소면서 딜 쪼게 버점 쪼게 버 코란 아니 바지 차고 어렸어
제가 다 코트와지는 코란 대가 너바 디 신신 데데바이나 콜 바제 레이고 제가 또 제신티 제 말고 그 다도기 리보드 마토바도 그런 데바 신주면 다 돼.
It'd be nice to have to see that to have a visual of what was actually mentioned, the terminology used. Because the light. So what Geshe was saying.
I'm just saying that like this, like I read it there, but really what I'm asking is like, you know, I'm asking about like a specific situation, you know.
Yeah. A specific situation of just finding the light. So
wait, what? Why do you say it would be helpful if you were actually to read it?
Because I'm afraid I'm misinterpreting what it is you're actually asking.
So
and whether this answer actually applies to the question you're asking. But let me just we're discussing things here first. Okay, so let me just throw it out there.
If you were to read it, that wouldn't actually be. We wouldn't actually be answering what I'm actually asking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So let's try to simplify the question. So how is delighting in these positive results an obstacle to practice? Is that right?
Yeah.
And by results, we're going to say a lesser result. Let's say human rebirth.
Yeah.
And that's not. I don't mean lesser like that's. I mean lesser. I don't mean non-ultimate, like not the ultimate. The ultimate is obviously liberation and enlightenment. But let's say I don't know. Let's say you're born in a wealthy family. For example, I'm just going to throw that out there for this conversation. We're going to call this, just so I understand, we're going to call this a lesser result, yeah? So, or like, let's say, that's something that could come from, your practice of generosity, so on and so forth. And, you have that ultimate vision in mind, or goal to achieve liberation and enlightenment. But let's say because of that, you do experience this, you're born into a, whatever, with all kinds of pleasures, yes? So you're saying that that just merely delighting in this, how does that become an obstacle to practice? Is that right? Yeah. Right? Right. So on top of what how we presented it in terms of maybe addressing your question is maybe an extra layer of, well, if you stop there, if you just stop there, if you just the mere action of delighting doesn't necessarily become an obstacle for you. But if you stop there, if that becomes your focus, and again, that's why we brought up the motivation. But if that becomes your focus and motivation, then it limits the reason for why you're striving, why you're working hard, and because of that, any effort that goes into that, it becomes a cause just merely for that. Like it limits the scope.
Okay, so but what if it's never becomes your motivation?
Then that's okay.
It's okay.
Then it's just merely delighting or finding joy in. Oh, okay. Well, let's say rejoicing. I think that's a better word. That shouldn't necessarily be, there shouldn't be a reason for that to obstruct one's practice. But if that becomes one's motivation to practice, oh, well, I wouldn't want to be born. Okay, well, yeah, ultimate goal, some other time. But I'm actually focused on, the nice car that I'll get. I'm actually focused on the 3 mansions that I'll be born with. If it stops there, if that becomes the motivation, if there becomes like an over focus and a dwelling in that, then that's when it can become an obscuration of practice.
So what do you mean by if there becomes like a focus or a dwelling in that? What if it's just like, for a few moments, you're thinking about it just for a few minutes,
Then that should be okay.
조치 다디 야고래 샤체 젤 디가는 거 코래 줘라 내가 수수 가서 다지 주반주도 우치 가린 수순데 바칸스 종바이나 라 가린 칸바 종바이나 되게 더 하는 게 수수기 들려야 가는 들 조치 되바이나 거기 들 하바신 뭐지 미 아주 누구 말와 되게 비듯이 봐라 그래서 들 조치라 되잖아 콘스 들어와다 들 조치나 아니 약간 누구 알아다
So
그 디지털 가는 뭐 코드냐 하여로 이제 되게 봐라
yeah, so what Geshe was trying to emphasize is that the more you delight in something, the more risk of you stopping just there. Let's say you delight in the fact that, oh wow, I'll be reborn as so and so. You might just stop there. You might, you know what, okay, well, you know what, liberation, enlightenment feels so far away. It's nice to just get this. Maybe I'll just work for this. Let's not work for the ultimate goals.
So you're
Just work
saying
for-
the problem is not the delight itself.
right.
It's that it might stop you from continuing to practice.
Yeah.
But isn't the entire purpose of practicing is to like uproot that type of thinking? So if you continue to think like that and continue to think that it's okay to think like that, you know, how is it not a hindrance to the practice?
How is what not a hindrance to the practice?
By thinking like that.
By delighting?
Yeah. Because my question is now.
Wait, so
is
is the
it
question how is that an
delight?
obscuration or how is that not an obscuration now? Because I think we might be coming to an answer here,
The
just
the
having
delight.
discussed back and forth. Do you feel like you've come upon the answer yourself? Because now
No.
I think initially the question was how does that become an obscuration, and now by doing so, how is that not an obscuration? So it feels like maybe we're answering ourselves
Wait,
here.
wait. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm just
Yeah.
asking, is it the delight? So
Yeah.
the delight is
There's nothing wrong with delight.
There's nothing wrong with the delight.
Why don't you come at me here? We can just debate it. There's nothing wrong with delighting.
Okay.
And what do you see wrong in that? And maybe that the kind of the counter perspective there you might think of something that
Well, at the end result of the practice,
Yeah.
why would we even have such thoughts towards that? You know what I mean? It's like craving for a food, craving for entertainment, something in the future, attachment to an object, something we're going to experience in the future, and so we're delighting in that. That's attachment. Why is it not the delight itself that is the problem?
Okay. Well, okay, let's say it is. Do you feel like that would be the answer to the question, to the original question? Let's say it is. Okay, yeah, it is. It is.
It is.
So if it is,
Well,
would you feel like that could be one answer? I'm not going to
wanna
say
know
that
it.
that's the answer. I'm just going to say, do you feel like we're kind of reversing the question here? like what we're coming into now is kind of basically bringing an answer to the question as one of the reasons why.
I don't know.
Okay.
You're going a little too fast for me. I'm not
Okay.
that sharp. But
아니
yeah.
저는 오늘 지나 아니 들라 가고 또 계셔로다. 또 계셔서 되었음 다 가고 계셔로다. 어때 아니 오늘 지나 아니 저서 버지 줘단디 문제는 거 간지 받을 때라. 고트월 때네 차이셔라. 차버려 어디. 저도 방저 말을 했어. 저서 네 샤네. 아니 그 버지 줘단디 말을 했어. 스
되게 sometimes 되게 오더스 그래 딱 그런 딜 트로치나 딜 차버치노야 또
그런 아니 그래 아니 맞지 지금 아니 라우디 케 껴야 말다
네
그런 식 속이면 어를 시도 되는 거는 맞습니다.
되게 오더 그런 소
Yeah, so yes.
you're already scared
We would like to agree
Yeah.
that's why. How about
Yeah.
that? We agree that delight
Yeah.
itself is something to be abandoned, and that's why if you delight in whatever is to come, then that's why it becomes an obscuration, because you're now attached to that enlightenment, to that delight. You're like attached. You're like over, and that's what we meant by. That's kind of what I meant by focusing, or when that becomes a motivation. You're almost like attaching. That becomes your motive now, and because of out of that attachment, you're like, oh wow, this is something that I would like. This is something so great, and there's an attachment. If there, let's say, there's an attachment involved in that delight, then that's when it then it can become an obscuration.
초진 디반자에 봐. 사지로 봐. 라 사지단주 동어를 반자에 차고요. 초진 스트레스함다요. 배치진 주명원 토동 대수 이내에 코이 되버라. 코와 차드요. 그래서 대 삼사를 왔다. 들로 구지수랑 쇼치야게 말다. 구지수랑 근데 제거해야 돼. 막이 마찬가지로.
Yeah. So and yes, we're not meant to dwell in this delight. It's something that that arises due to good and positive causes, but we always keep our mind on our motivation, which is the ultimate goals of liberation and enlightenment.
Yeah. So
I kind of, it was interesting because I was trying to dig through some vague memory of a concept in the text, and I'm not exactly sure. It was more in the context of like bodhisattva practice, which would then kind of fall in alignment with what Vladimir was saying, because then it becomes, it's kind of the emphasis more being on like the me, or the mine, or what I'm gonna get. But in the greater context of the question, I'm not sure how applicable this thought was, but it's something that came up in my mind. Geshe didn't mention it, and I was trying to bring it up, but I kind of lost the name. Jeez, what happened? Sorry, Lars. Can you share with us where you read this? You said it was in the middle, Lama. Where you read this particular about
this
for the
example?
ordained.
It was in a sutra.
It was in yeah, I lost the chat for some reason. Could you share everything that you sent before? Yeah, the weird thing about Zoom is when that disconnect happens, you kind of lose everything. I was wanting to read also as part of this greater conversation some things that were shared in the context of this question and answer, but I'll read what's here for now. On the one hand, good rebirths are sought in samsara, but on the other hand, these rebirths are also the object of abandonment, because good rebirths are afflicted aggregates. Yes, so Tenzo is basically helping us translate here, or what Geshe was saying was that the rebirths themselves are these limited, them not being the ultimate goals, they're still afflicted phenomena. They're still within the realm of afflicted phenomenon, and within samsara, afflicted aggregates in terms of rebirth, and so. Okay. Well, it was kind of a rephrasing of what we were sharing with you. It says, on the one hand, good rebirths are sought in samsara, so let's just see that as delighting in the good rebirths. But on the other hand, these rebirths are also the object of attachment, because good rebirths are afflictive of aggregates. Let's just say, for example, let's say a good rebirth. Yes, I apologize for throwing in those really irrelevant examples of cars and houses. That wasn't really part of the conversation, but I just wanted to simplify things as much as possible. I felt like I was getting lost, and so, but let's go with rebirth. Yes, or good rebirth. So let's say delighting in the good rebirth, yes, as one of the side results, the positive side results that we get from practice. So on the one hand, good rebirths are sought in samsara, but on the other hand, these rebirths, these temporal rebirths, are also objects of abandonment, because they are associated to afflictive aggregates or still within the realm of samsara. So those are ultimately meant to be abandoned. And so, if we, it's just kind of understanding that these are to come rather than, like rejoicing or overly rejoicing in these side results, or these, I guess you could say, secondary results. Yes, let's use that term, secondary results. It shouldn't serve as it shouldn't work as an obstacle, but it becomes an obstacle when you start grasping to that, and that's probably why it becomes an obstacle to practice. It limits, again, your scope. So let me read another a comment in addition to what we read here, and it's so be wary, because delight can become an attachment. Right. Yeah. Yeah, so good ideas and good comments and thoughts being shared. Yeah. If you do you remember specifically which sutra that was?
No, I could find it.
That'd be great. Yeah. Ale. Hasur. Di. Pali shum shna. Dusar. Yeah. It was kind of funny because I wasn't. I felt like I was in my own mind as I was going through, as I was doing my best to present what was being discussed. I thought I was straying from what you originally asked, and it felt simpler. It felt simpler than where we were going. So I was like, I don't know if we're actually hitting the bullseye here, but yeah, hopefully that gave you some food for thought.
Yeah. So I mean, I asked the question to try and figure out
I'm sorry. Just before you move on, is this still related to that first question, or is this a completely different one?
It's definitely related.
Before you move on to that second part, can just for the sake of conversation.
Oh yeah, sure.
Could you share? Could you emphasize what it was that you were initially saying, and see if that?
Exactly what you. First of all, I want to say that when you asked about the context of this question, that's important. That was very. That's why you have to know what's in what kind of sutra, what are they talking about. He asked for that because in fact I would say that it's not an obstacle. Even if you delight, even if you think only about future life, that's not an obstacle to practice. You cannot categorically say that it's an obstacle to practice, because it's a practice to want to have a good rebirth and nothing else. That's a practice. It's a Buddhist practice, right? So it depends on the context, what kind of practice we're talking about. If you obviously, if you're talking about bodhisattva practice, it's a problem if this is the only motivation. If you're talking about, since you said that sutra is from the Pali canon, so they're talking about liberation. If this is your only focus, it's also obstacle to liberation. But if you're practicing just for the sake of having a happy rebirth, it's not an obstacle, right? It's not it's not categorically an obstacle. Just because you want to have a good rebirth, you want to have a good car and all that, that's not, if this is your motivation, then it's not an obstacle. You know what I mean? It's not categorically an obstacle, that's what I'm saying.
Delighting in...
To not just to delight, but to even go beyond that, have a desire. This is your only motivation.
Right.
Nothing else.
Right.
You just want to have a good, happy
Right,
rebirth.
right.
Not just happy rebirth, but good
Right.
life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's nothing else. This is a practice in and of itself. But it's from the point of view of liberation, it's an obstacle. Point
Right.
of view of enlightenment, it's an
Right,
obstacle.
right,
But
right, right.
but it's not an obstacle categorically. It's depend on your practice.
Right.
That's why
Right.
the
right.
asking the context
Right.
was important.
Right,
What are
so-
they talking about?
So when we go back to the initial question of as this being an incentive for practice, right? Let's just say first we're like to not be caught up in that, but just let's say there is someone that sees, this good human rebirth as a reason for why they should strive or why they're practicing. That's when it becomes, and again, this is what Geshe was sharing too, that in that context of the practice, the goal of that practice being liberation and enlightenment. So in accordance to that, it would be an obscuration. Just if we take out kind of that ultimate goal or that ultimate aim, with just kind of looking at it within the lens of just finding sheer delight or joy and rejoicing in this alone, it doesn't, inherently have to be seen as.
근데 셴방에서 산도도 지다야나 배차샤는 조는 거기 뭐도 야보지 토라이 그러 뭐도 야보 토지 최제사 드라마에서 제 미미상 배 주부지 나를 토베는 딜가이 고야요 말아 가고는 배사버라다 토코 배 코노 최제 신고로 말아 제가 대수도는 섬다야도 그래서 뭐도 토세야 되는 것도 좋아지만 뭐도 토세야 되던 여기 뭐도 토로잖아요 야보여라면 뒷미미 미상 배 최근 다투사 매주 미상배 초보체 때는 주fon성 초반주 fon성 초보 영에 된 지날 제체네라 제와는 때 배셔진 단다 가즈린 본 단단디 전라민인데 제와도 집어라다 그 제오도 쇼저다 그 그런 준주 농주 fon성 초보 쇼저라 제가 된지를 가지고 좋아지 된지를 가공샤나 때 싸워라다 그 배트 좋지만 최체 주기 고걸 코너면 또 차선으로 제가 때 좋지만 것도 써야 되다 그런 어떤 라마라 마고요와 제가 대인도 전에 가서 도도 전에 가서 주어 추마디 주니 타바다 단지 첨부 토야기 베틀라냐는 치야기 주신 사마 사조기 것도 야고지 전에 들어가고네 바제시라로 이렇게 아마 대민비 가서 다 선들이 인바이나 주니어 방송 수바 마모시 좀 취지야를 바체 좀 마모 용으로 뜻을 가고 있네요. 단 도드는 시야바이나 취지야를 바체 요소기 것도 있는다. 선대기 주니어 방송 수바 있는다. 서치마가 좀 대절을 가고 저는 거야. 대고는 대고는 죄제가 빠지지.
So if what we're rejoicing in or delighting in is beneficial to, or it helps, it aligns, is in alignment with our practice and our ultimate goal, then obviously it wouldn't be an obscuration. But if it's limited by, let's just say, even just let's say if for example, the rebirth of a god that lives for a very, very long time. I forgot. I don't know what the term is. The common term that we use in English is what these specific gods that live for a very, very long time. Let's say for something like that, if we get caught up in that and take joy in that, then that becomes counterproductive and harmful to our practice. But if it's rejoicing in something that is conducive to our practice and our accomplishing or our reaching or fulfilling the ultimate goals, then yes, then it wouldn't be an obscuration.
Okay, well, yeah, I kind of asked the question to kind of, I want to try and figure out, like, this sort of middle way, not the middle way of Nagarjuna, but between, like, how Buddha practiced for 6 years, severe ascetic practices like fasting. And I think it was, my understanding of Buddha's life story that he was discerning the middle way between, like what needs to be adopted and abandoned, like the pleasures of the senses, and to what extent can one delight in them. And so that's kind of why, I asked the question to kind of discern that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Discern.
You know, like the Buddha's, like what Buddha did in his
Uh-huh.
life before becoming enlightened. That, you know, you see images of like the fasting Buddha, and
Yes.
you know, he finally decided to abandon that lifestyle because that was too harsh. Because I guess he
Extreme.
realized that some of the pleasures of the senses are okay to delight in. You know, so I'm trying to figure that out in relation to the wrong views, and I also believe that the 10 non-virtues, there's the opposite, the 10 virtuous actions, and so we also
Right.
have to hold the correct views.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so yeah, I'm just trying to
Okay.
figure all that out.
Okay. Before I go over your question, or that part of the question with Jampa, let me just read this really quickly. A comment was shared that reads, "I think that any motivation seeking a better future life of material things is an obstacle. We seek a PHR. We seek a Why did I put that together? We seek a precious human rebirth as part of our path to enlightenment to be able to benefit sentient beings. We get attached to riches, so that's not beneficial." Something that was shared in alignment with what we were talking about. 공이 디스고 되게 로다세죠. 이 고와 야부라 투에 그런 간지 배순식이 요사로 또 그런 데 제가 아무 땅 거에 돼. 아니 저자 아니 단도 그런 데기 좋은 일도 패지 저 입에서 쉬어도 또 급하게 저자 곧 로다기 단도 많이 파셔자 저기 비탄다 당 고아시로 또 거기 곧 야부르샤 nye tandala ani phagi chwa tang warda ro ani phagi chaza korangi tanda phagi te phagi kyo chimala ani tada kawa kontul to ken ani phagi phaji jugri sa ki sonya sharbas chedi ko te kanjis ya lemo ina sanda chaza phagi
로다 당데
저 kanji tadan shoro khodan shoro mano shi ani de chik koranti so shu jasa di insa 다니 페르 샤시나스 단라서 단다 루루카체 콜 그 디가블야 템바 아니 파기 루루카체 슈고 아니 로트루실 파 야상 아니 베티 알레
노샤스
티 탈마 마슈아셰 아니 노샤 아니 길슈에쇼라다 간지 우미쇼즈 조에 파기 페셔바 어다 디차자 아니 차상 파 아니 직세 아니 직다지 뭐 차상 파 직샤네 바빠네 어디 띠 파게 띠 랭미도 왔어 띠 아니 탈 홍미도 왔어 아니 알레디라 야 단지스 말통에 셔 봐. 그래서 패셔 아니 디션 아니 같이 아니 세 같이 고고어 봤어 소고 봤어 리더 봐 그래서 그디 아니 쳐서 아니 컨트롤 가르스나 아니 야세 반에 세르 셔셔나 세 망용의 허리네 다 초바다 마 초바 세 근데 코로나인데 아니 로다 마게 에치도 인스거든 호소 아주 로다 디컨지 고 따다 거기 템버시 거기 라이치도 인스 근데 저것도 단도 부딪혀야 돼요 아사만도 주치도 인사 근데 그 아니 배자 할로 아니 단다 할로 아니 진짜 그 따단디 야 로다 줘도 좋나 아니 딩만 왔어 그래서 코로나 좀 뒤에서 코로나 좀 겟다 지금 전화를 해요 봐 일단 제가
딜을 송수요 딜게 내가 참고래 코로나 단다 맞저기 신주 체베 가도들이야 로다스야데 조 맞저 데르바 아니 렌제체 아니 산지체 람라 소바드르게 타치 맞저 텐드리디 요 멘도산베 타치 로다 타치도 멘도산에 줘 메버타에 줘 딜로 로다스고 디모도야 신주 체베 가도 디인사레 쓰는 맞저 신주 체에 줘디 가르레 있는 체 신주 체에 열었어 디 신주 체 오르다 와 데 신주 체체는 그런 도바데 제고 그러나 제가 디카도들의 이나 메나 사메 투송다들래 안디 요마라 냐바도 신주 채고 왔다 딜로다 차야 요마 로다 세야데 타지도 문두삼 되고 왔다 제가 대인데 그런 게 디켜라다 그런 신주 제하다 안에 대주 이미 다지 제주로 어디 상황 로단이 되는 거 말이야. 로다스야 타지도 매워. 다고 뭐라.
또 그런 아니 preciousness 앞에 그런 단도 식 로그로 당연히 로지셔. 내 그런 좋은 이버스도. 아니 벽이 인터뷰 상황을 옆에 나도 토야 돼. 아니 벽이 예 돌딜라 가고구나. 근데 좋아하게는 아니 예 벽이 예 람나 파지 주그리 세기셔로. 때문에 그런 게 있다그러. 그런 로그로 그런 로데고 하다. 또 그런 로그로 아니 배전 되는 숨기서를 아니 배 좋아든지 찾아서 파 샤우고서라. 근데 좋아 그런 게 주고서 말했으면 계속 그런 사람들 레오이나. 아니 뒤지네.
딜로다 차이 말이야.
저디 된소 예어제 투에기 치도. 그런 뒤 주기여서.
데슬로다 차이 말이야. 데슬 차고 말이야. 그런 대로 로다스야 된 아주 그 노조 레상뭐 참만래 로다 차고 말이야. 차고 말이야. 로다스야 된 조지 렌지 조로도 렌지 다 데돈 제위 돈인 아주 람라소부터 매버다에 따와지어라. 다지도 문도산 따와지어라. 데스돈 되고 버다.
So we just wanted to say that we appreciate and rejoice in the effort that you're making to discern and clearly understand what the definitions are, how to discern, how to interpret. Those are very important. And please understand that your analysis, let's say even if you were to, let's say, misinterpret that section of the sutra that mentioned this, yeah? And you thought, okay, and I just threw that out there. I just said, for example, I was trying to really get as close to the bullseye as possible, and I still feel like, we're not exactly there yet, so I'm just kind of trying to dig away here. But I said, for example, to Geshe Tsultim, I said, for example, if Joseph interpreted this section of the sutra and saw this as, oh, well, then this means I shouldn't delight in anything. I'm basically going to completely refute joy and delight. Let's say that happened. If Joseph were to interpret it like that, there's a skepticism of whether or not that's correct, right? Or whether that's a correct view or not, or a correct understanding or not. And what you're trying to bring this all back to is distorted view or correct view. And so Geshe Tsultim said, oh, well, that not all misinterpretations or misunderstandings are labeled, fall under the label of distorted view. Distorted view are again, in the context of what we were mentioning before, completely, refuting karma, for example, and completely refuting, enlightenment, or completely refuting, what are the other fundamentals? Something like that.
Trivials like this.
Yes. So completely kind of going against the existence of something. The existence of something, even though that entity does exist. Something like that would be called, distorted view, or under the label of distorted view. But misinterpretation and misunderstanding doesn't necessarily, it fall under that. And so even if let's say you were to interpret it the way that I posited that example, let's say you were to oh, this means I can't take joy in anything. I guess I'm just going to be in Eeyore for life. Let's just say that wouldn't fall under distorted view. But obviously, what we're trying to get to is a clear understanding, the closest understanding, the most precise understanding for our knowledge and our practice. And so, we greatly appreciate what you shared with us, because it really, in my mind, it feels like you're really digging deep. And so, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, we'd like to kind of see that excerpt. Be nice to see. And then, but but I hope things that we discussed, even amongst all of us, were beneficial to that question and to your greater understanding of wrong view and how to incorporate or how to interpret certain aspects of things that arise in the text.
텐주어기 신자마 랑주어도 로다진 랑마라이나 콘즈기 텐주어 그런 시대 그렇게 killing 말아 도마니나 뜻을 콘즈 컨디시거라 컨디시거 때는 뜻을 로다진 레베트 코너 근데 그 나오 말아 소모 말아 대신에 텐주어 시자체와이나 신자마 랑주어도 콘즈 베 로다진 콘즈 니완도 근데 killing 말아
so so again completely dismissing and refuting something that is actually a certain reality or something that actually exists, something like that, kind of an extreme in itself of like, oh no, there's no karma, there's no cause and effect, there's no nothing. There's no future lives. There's no liberation, enlightenment, something like that.
So so I understand that. Those are the things that entitle the wrong views.
Right.
But I think there are also things that arise. Like my confusion, of course, from not having the right views.
Yes.
So just simply not necessarily holding the wrong views, but just lacking the correct view.
Yeah.
Confusions will arise.
Right. And Geshe was saying that those confusions. Obvious, because we're still beginners, because we're still practicing, those will come, within the process of examination and practice and learning. But those don't need to be taken and labeled as severe, distorted view.
Just to clarify, if one held the view that delighting in these future aspects, prospects, if someone held the view that delighting in those future things are okay, that would not be a wrong view. Or would it be just a confusion arising from not necessarily having a correct view?
It wouldn't be, again, within this context of like the 10 non-virtues, like this, right? Obviously, when you look at it from a certain perspective of a certain, let's say, a certain practitioner, it could be a wrong view, right? Technically, again, because that term is quite broad. But again, when we're talking about this context within the 10 non-virtues, we're alluding to these kinds of views. Let me read a couple of things from that we have here online. This is this one. Nambi shungna ta jamin pambe umas pena dunbe sechibata sezu rensawe sezu remba sawe umas. Moderate eating between the extremes of lavish eatery and strict penance. So this was just kind of the proper translation of what we were trying to execute. I was trying to execute. Ani koran debanisa ta jamin pambe ume denle in yudusa. Right?
Umasya de la jidan mabuyor tanda ngobin don tsunala ina tanda gang sonde tirwa. 아니 오마세한테 세 처리를 벌써 왔던 세 처리와 그래서 아니가 오메랑세한테 송요래 양 팔랑이라 제래야 오메랑세한테 송요래 아니 엔타나신 타나서 동반이 나라신 멤버 동반이 저러 텔레 오메랑 송요다 오메랑 송셔 마보여 고타기 저대 오메랑세한테 고트 오메랑 저다였으면
this trend is quite this page thing interests when you can so horande 그런 만화 지 과셔로 된다 셔로 그런 마음으로 아니 뭐 삼부터 되고 봐 아니 되게 만화 어디 그런 삼바셔로 그런 챔버디
보면은 그런 뜻이 맞는 데서로
맞아 so we were just again looking at different angles of the question. After having read what was here online. And then it says, a question for you both. How would you define and sum up calm abiding meditation yourselves? The Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen.
Nas.
아니 티 나라니 스라다
Nas.
samzuylas rather sona in tonis
Nas.
ani chi jeshi khandi chapsaris
Shini la ore na no la.
shini
Shini la. Samsu ngara ni samsu che ne shini la rishe ja ke mara. Shini la ti tanda jona la songsha jo te shija chen ja jiro. Ale shini tobar che wala ting wala sini go te rin chin ro. Ani shini to yong de tsane ta chi lusin shenjang gi ani dewa da su to. Ani lusin shenjang gi dewa to ne 다 유리야 아니 지지도 미봐 르신 신장의 대화 토와 잠지양 신이 토스이와 말다 르신 신장의 대화 토마토인데 잔 거기 유리 인화 여러서 와라 제가 다 르신 신장의 대화 토 디젤 아니 그런 가와디 인화데 바시네 되네 유리야 미바는 제대로 던도도 안 지지도 냐브라 샤토야 던데 송여라 당한선도 쇼나로 주소를 던데 미시서 말 지다는 던도도 딱 그런 데 바카데 자치 주저지 좋고 가져 그런 재단도 또 지지도 미봐 자토야기 유전의 친구도 만들고 자토야 되지리야 하는 신이스 되세워라 나 되게 많이 되래도 신이 루비츠들 지난 라면 먹고 싶다 라 난다 먼저다 라니난들 라존나 다 마음 마셔야 다들 이제 송잖아
Abiding meditation.
Yes.
Will you tell us something?
Yes.
It's not a meditation. It's a state.
Can you repeat that again, please?
No, when people talking about calm abiding meditation, there's calm abiding,
Right.
but not calm abiding meditation.
Right.
Meditation is for the purpose of attaining calm abiding.
Right.
There is such a meditation, yes.
Right.
But meditating on, let's say, focus on an object, that's not calm abiding meditation. So
Yeah.
combining the two, meditation and calm abiding, is problematic. So it implies that that person thinks that we are focused on an object, but that's not what it is. That's not what calm abiding. Shine, we're talking about shine. That's not what it is.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. 거기 근데 지금 비슷한 단어셔, 주어 단어셔. 아니 calm abiding meditation dus tanduas. calm abiding 신에서 meditation 말와서. meditation 같은 거 토버시르 뭐 토버시르 뭐도 디 calm abiding meditation 세 그때 땅에 말와서 스르.
아나 다 인지나로 간데 있는 당아서 calm abiding 그런 meditation 차대요다. 공 차대요. 공들이야 제공된 요공이 요래. 아니 신이들은 요공이 나가는 다 야와랑 차대요. 네, 다 인지나는 지간을 배치다 먹어라. 이런 리서치 대체 리시 뭐 먹어지와. 너 많이 리시 자고야 다기 그런 좋아다야지도. 대나도라 신이기 토야래야 디나래야 아니 신이 토야게 신이 더 고도스로 요레스.
If we have time, we'll come back to what you just mentioned, Vladimir. But if we go back to the initial question, Kishima was saying that we don't have anything to share outside of what is mentioned here in the text. And again, hopefully he had the chance to read the commentary on this. If you had the chance to read the commentary, but yeah, and so you'll find the same information. And again, the version in the palm of your hand is a root reference and resource for this commentary here. But yeah, calm abiding is developed through the 9 stages of mental development, and then physical and mental pliancy. Again, this is mentioned here in the commentary. Are achieved, and then when it comes to having actually accomplished calm abiding, one is able to focus single-pointedly for as long as one wishes. in terms of having after having achieved it. And so, yes, outside of what's already here in the text, Geshe and I don't have anything specific to share in terms of karma abiding. But let me read a couple things that came up here. Rather than delighting in the result of virtuous actions, perhaps a better term would be understanding and appreciating. Rejoicing was something that came. Yeah, delighting maybe carries with a little bit of an attachment. Or so bliss, and first are the 9 stages of mental development, and the bliss and stability arising, or physical and mental pliancy arising from karma abiding, and in that order and in that process. So yeah, obviously there are these few pages here in the commentary, but if you would like to read more, you'll find definitely more details and descriptions in the lam-rim text, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand commentary, and then also other resources as well.
This actually, I'm sorry to say that, but I don't think this is very useful because there are a lot of inaccuracies and basically wrong statements. It's very confused. The translation is obviously problematic, or maybe the editing. I don't know if you read it, but the whole commentary to verse 9. All the whole commentary to verse 9. There are many. I mean, you cannot really, from this commentary, you cannot get any useful information.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, so Vladimir, first things first.
Yes.
Let's go back to what you had mentioned about karma abiding being a state rather than a meditation.
Right.
And we would like to counter that by saying that not only is karma abiding a meditation, it's the highest form of placement meditation.
Yes.
And then after having and so on top of that, kind of something else to bring up, it was that also karma abiding marks or is one of the signs, or is the sign of having accomplished the 3. Is it the 3 wisdoms? Not all 3, but the wisdom of meditation. Wisdom meditation, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My response is that usually when people talk, I'm just reading.
Sure.
When we talk about karma abiding, this is especially when we talk about karma abiding. I agree, of course, it's a meditation. Yes. It's a meditative state, meditation, obviously. Yes. Yeah, but when people talk about karma abiding meditation, they mean focused on an object. And that's not what it is. It's not being focused on an object. They refer to the meditation, the process. You sit down and you instead of analyzing, you focus on an object and you call it karma abiding meditation. That's not what it is. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right, okay.
Shinei, something more, you know. Yes. You have to achieve the bliss of pliancy,
right.
And go through the 9 stages. Then you have karma abiding.
Right. 공에 되게 라이셔 안에 되면 배 타지도 곰 말했으니 디 라이메스 아니 거기 미주 타니 너 되게 생배주 당다 아니 거기 아주 거기 디 신예수도 아니 거기 루스미 신장 당나 시스템이 공원의 조어 먼저 망고시 시지어서 그런 주당시어 봤어 신의 주당시 미주데 아니 만데 거기 시지가나 봐 유지를 샤워데 아니 거기 바진 시기도 왔을 때 말다 하세 어디 세시 인사 어디 옆에 곰 주는 말을 쓰면 그게 계제 메사 그때는 디나 kanske jag såg ju det tons. Går det beslushi når det på juice det jag men så sen så kan det komma till nästa.
Ja det. Det var ju det går sen då inser då. Nej, det går sen då inser.
Till lab ju. Rätt. Till lab ju. Nej, komma till nästa.
Rätt. Från det någon gör
det. Would you care to point out? Okay, so now we can move on.
Yeah, move on. Yeah, for example, the last sentence on page 49.
49.
This is why Lama Tsongkhapa refers to the integrated path of shamatha and vipassana that produces the mind of single point concentration or samadhi.
Okay.
So first of all, samadhi is not single point concentration, right? The mind of single point concentration, which what they're referring to. Samadhi, shamatha, what is meant here is shamatha should be shamatha instead of samadhi. Samadhi means meditation,
okay.
I think. That's in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Now, shamatha means shine.
Samadhi is the symbol, right? I actually can't remember exactly what samadhi meant. I started interpreting this as like one of the dhyanas.
It's not shamatha, right?
Okay.
There's a difference between, and shamatha means shine.
Okay.
But that's a minor point. The thing is that it's not what produces the mind of single point concentration.
I think what it's referring to is something. What is that? Something.
That's a minor point. The point is that
yeah.
the whole sentence is it's not like that. The mind of single point concentration is not produced by the integrated path of the union of shamatha and vipassana.
The first, I interpreted that as the dhyana. Like the first
even that obviously is so it's imprecise. There are many imprecisions here. Then the next sentence. So, but look at the. It says that the integrated path of shamatha and vipassana that produces the mind of single point concentration, and that's not the case. Shamatha is single point concentration, not shamatha and vipassana.
But this, Judani, Tata Mari research doer, right? And wall pegi, Jeremy, ani. Ishila sungde lam tennis, right? Ani produces a symbol of the mind of single pointed concentration or samadhis. Tadi when it's bad no use la shesar. When I do that. Did that in single body meditation of this ma? So that is a Shila sungde gombal tennis, right? 아니 저부 디 용그스 소여스 셔. 근데 저부 디 쳐서디 말어 왔어. 싱가포르에 디 말어 왔어. 셔마다 그 코로 신의 코로 싱가포르에 차대 봐 왔어. 근데 딜레테네 저부 디 용그스는 거해면 왔어.
아 곰발레 테네스 디 곰발레 테네 나와라.
네 곰발레 테네스는 어디 디 주신에스 라. 이실라 송데 이기 주신에 아니 저부라 아니 then others the youngest
spontaneous concentration
something about
samadhi la na thomara
this okay all right well thanks for pointing that out. It's clear that he was trying to refer to something outside of shamatha.
That's why it's problematic.
Right.
If you cannot really get the proper information from that.
Right. Was there anything else that
well, there's a lot. The next sentence, the sentence after that, they're inaccuracies. Sometimes they're subtle, more subtle. Sometimes they're just downright unfortunate. But
this way.
Preciousness tomanya to bishro matcheo yo and tonya to bishro gombala den tonya to bishro torla.
Oh, seja.
this don't to be sure gumba la ten
shila songde le tennis
ten
ro de gomba le ki khare ti se
shila songde le ten zi ji wi di ngure la na re da ku shila songde konan zi ji ba cha de ro re re ko te ko zen san shi ca so war da de zi jönge de zi be ja de shin ga ayam
re de des re 이번에 삼삼 뜻 작하고 알바.
그래 코시 잡고.
I mean, next time maybe we can go line by line and see, because actually in the process of correcting the mistakes, we can learn a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
exactly.
you know, these what if you call it a mistake or inaccuracies in translation, they do imply a lot of information behind them.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sharing that.
That's another thing. What's Vipassana?
Yeah.
Vipassana.
So, were you able to read any of the beginning paragraphs, Joseph? Did they make any sense? At least as a kind of like a rough.
I'm not saying in like relation to this text.
Oh, okay.
As how people use.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think they might be used in different ways.
I don't think did it really like define the words?
I think there was at least a rough definition of what they were, just for a beginner to like differentiate.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, so we'll stop there for today. I'll continue next week.
Let's go delve into the way we're kind of skimming over the whole text. But
Yeah.
we can look at this sentence by sentence.
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Oh, you mean like read here, like read when we're together, or we can go over, line for line if you'd like.
We don't have to read together.
Yeah.
We will have read it.
Yeah.
In silent.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Just analyze line.
Oh, just to like go line by. Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
should have done that before.
Oh, can you?
Because the same is.
I'm sorry, I have to keep reminding you for those online.
Yeah. I was just suggesting that maybe next time we go line by line.
To like scrutinize and analyze
Yes,
the text.
because even if there's some inaccuracies in the translations, but nevertheless,
Yep.
if we unpack them,
Yeah,
they will reveal a lot
yeah,
of.
right.
There's a lot of information. They refer to
Sure.
many things,
Sure.
even though in a kind of
Sure.
a
Sure.
vague manner.
Yeah,
But
please,
nevertheless, that could be done.
feel free to bring the lines up as we go along next time.
No, I mean we all bring them. Just go line by line.
Oh, instead of like.
Oh,
Yeah,
Answer
instead of
questions.
free-flowing discussion. Yeah.
Oh. It's
So,
like
so
actually,
I mean,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because there are a lot of.
Yeah.
No, we can have the free-flowing discussion. No
Yeah.
problem with that, of course.
Yeah.
But also, but when we get to the text,
Yeah.
not to skip. We of course, at this point, we haven't even begun.
Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
to-
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so
This is-
that's
this is a
okay.
very- this is a
We
very
still
brief-
have time. There's no
Yeah.
rush, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is a very brief, kind of rough reading, and obviously the content, the topics are very important. But we're, it's, I think something that we were also kind of testing as well. Well, not testing, but kind of testing and analyzing too was kind of the flow of the sessions, in a certain format, and obviously we haven't sat with each. I mean, it's impossible to be at verse 10 already, if you actually sit down with the topics. But for the time being, kind of roughly, and because also for the sake of the wider audience that may be participating, we've kind of kept it going in this way as a means of keeping it accessible. But yeah, we can actually go through the lines.
More inaccessible.
I'm sorry?
Let's make it inaccessible.
So yeah.
Obviously, people who are asking these questions and making comments, they have people online. They're familiar with these concepts. They've read. It's clear that they have knowledge of the lam-rim, so we can.
We'll try to balance. That's what we've been trying to do too. But we'll try to balance. We can always make improvements to how the session flows. So I think we can balance a little bit of each, find a way through that. Yeah, okay. All right, well, we hope you have the opportunity to read verse 10, and we'll continue from there next week. But you're more than welcome to raise any question from any of the previous verses and any in general as well that arise. So please keep that in mind. But we'll stop here for today and go ahead and do the dedication of merit. Please turn to page 69 in the text and recite along with us. Let us dedicate our positive energy to the flourishing of the Buddha Dharma throughout the world. Let us dedicate our positive energy to the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May his sacred mandalas of body, speech, and mind be unharmed by negative intentions and actions. May he and other great masters be successful in fulfilling their dreams and visions for benefiting all sentient beings. Let us dedicate our positive energy to all spiritual communities throughout the world so that they may flourish in their study, contemplation, and meditation. Let us dedicate our positive energy to the elimination of the problems in our world, such as famine, war, and conflict. May everyone in this and other world systems experience peace, happiness, and harmony. Let us dedicate our positive energy to ourselves and to other Dharma practitioners so that we may overcome all obstacles to spiritual development. Let us dedicate our positive energy to ourselves and to all sentient beings so that we can purify the obscurations to liberation and omniscience and quickly reach full enlightenment. Thank you, and see you next week.